using this strategy. That is every single trade that I take. If I was explaining it to a blind man, would sound the exact same. But of course, we're going to dig into exactly what a Potter box is today, and this is hopefully going to, yeah. But what I want to do today is obviously dig into how you guys can start spotting these things, and what the difference is, what they're made up of. So what the hell? What the is a Potter box, right? So again, I made up the name, right? Just like everybody else does. Darvis boxes. My name's not even Potter. So, but I'm Potter Stocks, and I discovered this box, and then people kind of put two and two together, and here we are. But more or less, right? No, my name's not Potter, guys. I'm a white guy who was wearing round glasses. I didn't give myself the nickname, all right? I thought about throwing it in there, legally, but my wife told me no. F you, bro. My name is Garrett. I'm just a white guy who looks like Harry Potter when I have round glasses on. But no, my name is not Potter. Um, I mean, it's better than Anakin Skywalker boxes. So, yeah, Shane the plumber. That's actually crazy. That's a bannable offense. We're gonna have to get this guy out of here. His last name's not Plumber. That's crazy. Everything's a lie. All right. Yeah. Max. Okay, I got you. No lightning bolt? No, I do have a big pock mark though. All right, so let's get into the definition of what a Potter box is, right? Potter box is just another name for consolidation, defined by three main parts: buyers, sellers, and cost basis. And these are, of course, typically defined as well by multiple points of contact, candle closes on both sides. Okay? Oh, that's not it. Hold on one second. Where's my slide? Oh, that one snuck in there. All right. So where are they located? Right, where can you find a Potter box? You can find them literally everywhere, and they work the exact same way. So whether you're investing or you're scalping, Potter boxes, or the idea of utilizing the volume that's at the 50% mark to expand price further is the same. And I have traded and purchased equity on punchbacks on things like Elf, things like Celsius, Kava, Carvana, and I've done these all on higher time frames, focused purely on the weekly. Hell, we're even looking at the QQQ, which, you know, it is what it is, but we're kind of looking at the QQQ on a weekly time frame, right? It's approaching what we could dub as, and if it fails again, dude, I'm the biggest bear in the entire world. But right, this is a weekly punchback, and if it does go up, it's more than likely definitely going to go and hit its highs. Period, point blank, end of story, and that's how I'll trade it, and that's what I think this week is really about. But because they exist, right, on both the 1 minute and the 24 hour and the weekly and the 30 minute, I'm plagued, right, with the idea that if the highest time frame is true, just as much as the 1 minute time frame is true, then why am I not focusing on the higher time frames, which obviously give me bigger rewards? Or even if I'm not necessarily playing them, a stock that is breaking cost basis and moving into a lack of resistance makes for a wonderful day trade, right? Scalp, it's moving. It's moving in the right direction, or at least what direction it is moving in. And so just acknowledging the higher time frames can give you an edge that way. So what is it made of, right? And again, we've already discussed this, jumping ahead a few times, but of course at the top, right, typically defined or shown by the red candle closes or wicks, are going to be sellers. They control, they push back, sell orders are here. And when we break over a level that sellers control, they exit. And when they exit, they buy. So naturally, in a game of push and pull, buyers are trying to beat them. It's also created by cost basis, right? Which is the 50% mark in between the two. It is where the volume resides. Oftentimes, you'll actually see candles touching, wicking off of cost basis. And this makes it even better because if I can see structure or see points of contact off of cost basis as well, right? Then I can utilize cost basis as an entry, right? Or a stop loss. Buyers, obviously, typically marked out by the green candles or multiple wicks off of the bottom. And the idea is simple. That is where the buy orders lie. What's where the volume is for buyers. So naturally, as sellers, when we're able to push and trigger stop losses, right, and push buyers out, we're able to pass the baton. So again, another look at this. And one thing that we can pull from this, right, is the multiple points of contact that we can observe on this higher time frame box. We've got a wick here, a candle close here, and a wick right here, right? I've got a candle close here, a candle open here, and a candle close there. And so this helps me identify the range that I'm looking to trade this out of. I have candle close at right at cost basis, but more or less a wick bouncing off of that 50% mark. So this is just a small, and it's not again, if I can spot the top and the bottom, I know where cost basis is. It all goes together. So buyers, again, found at the bottom of the box, defined by candle closes. Price closing under shows a loss of control. So if you're not able to do what you see in front of you, where you're able to let price possibly fall, but pull and control those candle closes, that is where you are pushing buyers out, right? Or you're making it so they no longer have control. Price closing under it shows a loss of control, but buyers buy any time price comes into their control. Wicks that do not align do not, and of course these do, but wicks that do not align, right? And again, even if these do, I have more points of contact here, so I'm gonna focus on those. Wicks that do not touch the same price mark multiple times, right? Preferably all the times. Those are not what I would include or count as being the points of contact. And there are some boxes that are, I think I was looking at Mara earlier, and it's like, it's tough to actually on the higher time frames, all the wicks are coming off of different spots. So it's best to zoom down and be fluid with, okay, well, let me go to the 4-hour, because if it's not clear on the 24-hour, zoom in your microscope and you'll probably see in greater detail exactly where that box is. And I get that question a lot. And again, focusing on points of contact and candle closes. Typically, candle closes are going to show where the control is, and that's what I'm looking to establish. But again, if wicks are all bouncing off the same mark, then I'm going to accept that as the floor. And here's the thing, guys. It's not like you're going to be left with like, oh, I just started the 24-hour and I cut this wick out, and there is always a way to solve the problem. And if it's not on the 24-hour, it's on the 4. And I teach this lesson and use this lesson a lot as we're diving in and out of higher and lower time frames. Because if I can't see what I need to see, I'll dive down to where I need to go to see it, or to clear it up. And sometimes it is clear on the higher time frames, and it's easy to establish exactly what we're looking at, and that's always preferred. I would always prefer that. But in the moments that it's not, I use the different time frames to identify what I'm looking for. So now, um, let's see. All right, so buyers, again, no bottoms. Excuse me. First candle close, right here. That's wick body, and I did choose more difficult boxes for a reason. I don't know why my box has shifted down here, but I did choose more difficult box for these boxes, and we'll go through these in just a moment to identify some more. But typically when we're looking for, even in the most difficult scenarios, which I don't put myself in, It's those bottom multiple points. Okay, we got an open candle here, and then we got a wick bouncing off of it. So this first candle bottom close off of the bounce is where the floor typically will be set. Notice after this candle wicks cost basis, right? It closes under support. When price is finally accepted on that same buy floor right over here to our left, that's when we get our continuation. And it's interesting how just this candle right here, while this one wicked cost basis and was pushed down lower, that next day you gap up, fill your gap, and then hold the floor. And again, sellers have a job. They are trying to push price back down. And so when you see, and I think a couple of you guys showed me an example, it's even like Amazon, right? The market was pushed back multiple times and Amazon kept it up. And I believe the same thing is going to happen on UNH. If you can't push UNH back, which, it's kind of a frustrating little setup, but I do believe that this is going to be a good one. It's building, right? Rather than just dumping. Um, but it's that sort of resilience, right? When you're sitting up at a ceiling, that's what's going to get you to break because you're letting price settle in the face of sellers, and sellers are not pushing it down. And just for yeah, okay. So we'll come back to that. So whether it's at the floor, right, where candles are trying to close on the floor, or if it's a candle right up against resistance, and those are you see multiple green candles not losing anything, but being pushed right up in the face, a lot of the times that's where you get why not drop to the wicks there that align? Because it's a loss of this structure, and there was something. We're going to go through some examples here, but so oftentimes when you lose structure, there's something over to your left that you're bouncing off of. And in this example, I zoomed a little bit too far in, but we're going to go through these, right? We're going to go through and identify some floors. Um, let's see here. Okay, so and you guys can feel free to drop some requests if you'd like. And just some stocks that you might be watching, and we'll chart them right now. Right. All right. So right off the bat, you'll notice there's a lot of wicks down here, right? And I'm not seeing a ton of them off the same area, but it does look like 75.27 is that candle close. I'll pull this up as well. And we got two candle closes here. Uh-oh, right? What do I do? Not panic. I'm going to go down here to a lower time frame, right? And I'm going to look for where and that's again where I just had my candle close. Clearly, that's not it. So I'll accept that as my floor. And I think that's pretty much correct. So on the higher time frame, right, we'll leave it on those wicks and we'll drop it here, right, where these rejections come off of. Now, is this your quintessential box? No, it's not, right? It's because as soon as you move down into a lower time frame, you'll notice there's a big difference on that whole setup. Ooh, what did I just do? It's more or less just a range, but this range was built up. Yeah, I saw that one. Yeah, I would say it was more of a box that you actually two taps off the bottom, two taps off the top, and then you flush down, hit that floor separate to you, and then you end up struggling to reclaim it, hitting cost bases, going red, and then punching through up and out. Let's see, you guys said Amazon. All right. So again, starting with the highest time frame, I think this one's pretty clear, and it was a punchback from what I can tell. Now, are these all wicking off the same exact mark? They are. So we'll give it the floor, right? 4-hour check, solid. I got it, right? Let's go to the 4-hour again. Did this reach a new low? It did. So that is technically a punchback off of that open price. Yep. So you lose your floor, right? Technically, while all of this is in range, you get 3 taps off the top, more than 3 off the bottom. Price gaps down, falls touches this open candle right here, which is the first open candle to your left, bounces. And one of the big things here, one of the things you're going to want to be looking for as you trade this system is candles that look like that at the lows. Those are sellers' worst nightmare, because what it does is it means that you did go hunt for volume, right? You let sellers have what they want, and then you pulled it right back up in their face. And this can start that squeeze like price action, right? Start pushing sellers out of their positions. All right, let's see here. What else do we got? And in some of these examples, I'm going to venture to guess there's might be no Potter box, right? Sometimes that's also true. And we have to be able to tell the difference, because one of the big mistakes I see here, or have seen over the years, is that people just try to drop boxes where there technically is not one. The first green candle to my left is quite literally that, right? Or if I was looking here, see, we already lost our floor here, so you would more or less be looking for whatever top is underneath you or whatever floor is underneath you. Let's see. So sometimes like this, I'm going to have to tell a story. So you had a box, grabbed your floor, punched through the box. So I'd be looking for the top of those red candles there first, right? But anyway, lift. This is, yeah, I would say suitable as far as candle touches, right? Candle, 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 candle close here. This actually doesn't look like a bad setup, obviously, with the 24-hour candle closing this way. So you would be just looking for a simple break of structure on this setup. This is a good setup. And this is where things are going to get interesting, right? So already when I see something like that, I know that we got something. Oh, sorry. You guys can still hear my music? My bad. My bad. I did not realize I left that on. I thought I turned it off to my background music. All right. What's the difference between a range and a box? We're about to get into that. We're about to get into that, because I can tell you right now, that's a range. If it does not have, right, that's a box. This is range. It's not boxable, right? You might be able to grab some things, but it's not boxable. This, I would probably go ahead and label as a box. Definitely gives that vibe. That would be a range. It's got everything that everything that a box does, but just doesn't have the structure, right? This, yes, would be a range, right? Whereas this, which is pretty ugly, would still be closer to a box. That would be a box, right? That would be a range. That would be range. That's a box with a nice punchback. Damn, look at that punchback. Bam, right in earnings. When you say structure, yeah, structure, consolidation, that is all. And that's actually a really good setup here too. Look, beautiful floor, beautiful box. That's actually really sick. Pops down, then punches through, slingshots itself up, and then punches through another. Yes, we got multiple points of contact here, and then comes back to retest that same cost basis. So not bad. Yes, yeah. Sideways, any time that price is not doing this, there's probably range, right? And there's a difference, and that's what my strategy highlights, is it is these kinds of boxes, not necessarily the ranges. Those are oftentimes just retests, and we have to know the difference. But yeah, there is a big, well, that helps to identify where I mess up 90% of the time. Yeah, this is something that we have to be able to do, is label. And let me just see, what else do you guys have? Snow. So I'll kind of highlight. So I have this already labeled as a box, right? Which honestly, this is something where if you've gotten pushed down twice and you are able to punch through this box, I would expect for snow to go and meet its 190 level pretty quickly. But we'll go ahead and mark out again. So there's a floor right there. It looks like, so this is actually tricky, right? And some stocks are a little bit like this. Look, candle close, candle close, candle close, candle closes just outside. Next day, you pop up, right? You got all this volume up above you. You wick out, look, retest that cost basis. The next day you punch through it. Really, really, really small. And again, if you move to the 4 hour, ooh, that expands big time. Actually looks more like that, but the concept is still true. And it's actually funny because sometimes this will confuse people and they're like, well, what if the boxes look different? Right? Why, you just basically expanded that box halfway. But the concepts are going to remain the same, right? If I'm looking at this on the 4 hour and you wick out and then you close at cost basis, right? That's a downside signal. If I look at the 24 hour and I see you wick out and close back in, right? Again, that's my box here. If I see you wick out and close back in, that's still a short signal, right? That's still where you would be looking at a punch down. So because this is a fractal system and fractals literally just mean the same thing that happens below is the same thing that happens above. So, all right, let's see what else. Some of these boxes are ugly. Oh, you're going to make me do Tesla? You know Tesla doesn't have any damn boxes. It does have boxes. I just hate it right now because it won't. All right, so tricky on this one, right? One, we got clean points of contact up above, and it's these candle bottoms, right? That one in particular, and this one here, that gives away where that floor is, and that you don't have a lot of points of contact. No, I'm not going to give it this double wick, right? I'm going to give it where the candles close. Yo, there's a beetle on my desk. Hold on 1 second. Swear to God. What kind of beetle is that? Make sure it's not one of them crazy ass beetles. All right, we're good. Sorry. The beetles out here like bite you and then you'll die. All right. So Tesla, again, this one is actually hilariously kind of famous for creating. It does create boxes, and the boxes do work perfectly. But man, when it is in range, when it's like this, no cigar, right? You got a box over here, and that one is purely defined by wicks. Only wicks give me the territory. Look, so this is exactly what I want to see. When you do have something, a lot of these stocks, like a lot of these setups that we've already gone over, they're not clean. They're kind of ugly. But when I'm looking for setups, I am looking for uh, good, solid points of contacts across the board. And even if that means wicks, this is a great example, right, of a continuation candle. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, right? So you get two first, and this is again where we'll get into wave theory too, but you have two first off the top and then three off the bottom. This is actually something that we look for to choose a direction oftentimes is actually, did you bounce off of your floor 3 times and do you still have two overhead? If you're able to cross cost basis while you're inside of the box, you can oftentimes see a break and move to the upside. Something to look for. Would you still box ranges though? How would you use it? The same way I use my normal boxes, folks. So let me make that clear as well. I use ranges the same way that I use boxes. The only difference, okay, it's going to be a moment of clarity here. The only difference is cost basis doesn't promise me a new high. Cost basis, or the 50% mark, promises me resistance. Resistance promises me a new high. So we have to get the break off the top of the range or there's no cigar. Now, let me explain why. Oftentimes, those ranges, right, are actually retests like this. That's a retest of something. You pull down, you hit something, you bounce, and then you keep flushing down. Is it still have a 50% mark? You're damn right it does. Look. But does it promise me a new high? No, it promises me resistance. That's about it. So everybody clear on that? Boxes need to have their tops blown off, or they do not see continuation. Or bottoms. Ranges equal resistance? No. No. That's not what I'm saying. Hold on. Let me find a range. I think that's a range. Okay. That's more of a range. There's two off the top. There's one on the bottom. You flush right through. Right? Me reclaiming the floor, check. You get cost basis. You reclaiming cost basis, fine. You only get resistance, right? In order for me to verify that a range, right, can see continuation, I need to see it all. I need to see the actual top. Broken. But let me tune you into something, right? If I can find a floor, so if I, again, go here and I find my range, two off the top, one off the bottom, and I see that price is respecting it, where can I place my entries? Here, because it gives me this. I can place my stop losses also there, but at that point, you are not promised. It's literally 3 points that you get to gauge or see if volume has what it needs to continue moving. We are watching? Watching what? No, you dude, don't ask me. What are you not getting? When we say touches? I'm sorry. Look, do you see this? This is price attempting to go and grab the bottom candle right here. And this is what I mean by the first green candle to my left, right? This candle and this floor, right, would be the first green candles to my left in the most recent price action. If I enter at cost basis, it punches to the top, but wick back down to cost basis. At what point do you exit? See, if you enter at cost basis and it punches the top but wicks back down to cost basis, I look at the I typically go look for what candle floor or whatever it is that I'll zoom in normally and see if that candle, if it did get wicked down, what does it lose? Because Empress, one of the most important things about a rejection is when a rejection occurs, something is trying to be lost, and if they can't push it down, then you still have strength. Okay. So you're looking for the first green candles at the bottom. Yeah, as targets. Yes. I mean, let me just explain this even more simply. My trades literally look like this, right? Cost basis breaks, or in this case, the 50% breaks over the top to the next first green candles to my left. That's my strat. That's like quite literally, I am looking to fill up these pockets because A, I know that price moves fast in these areas, right? And I also know B, that volume does not sit on the contracts with those targets. Normally, most people don't see this as a actual target, right? Volume doesn't usually reach a stock until it's already ripping. There's some stocks that always rip, so they always have, you might be 15 strikes out of the money and you got expensive contracts. But on our average stock, I would say Lulu included, here and there, you have the ability to pick a target based off of what structure. So, I mean, like, I'm gonna be honest with you. If I was looking at taking Lulu, the fact that price has tried once, tried twice, tried 3 times, if you were able to reclaim that floor, fill this gap, I would actually be looking at a entry to $200 at this floor. Now, anybody guess why I might want to do that? Anybody guess? Why would I want to do that? Volume? I mean, that's a part of it, but not the reason. No. No, I'm saying why would I yes, there is empty space up here, but that's actually been filled, right? So let's say again, right? I get an entry here. What does that do? Right? Not only do I have this underneath me, right? If price does push off of that, it would only be cost basis directly up in front of me. But the stop loss is where not only that, when when you try or when sellers push something back, right? This is where sellers said no. So if price is accepted here, right, and we're pushing back up there, we have the momentum of that break pushing us through this. So you're pushing out all of these sellers, right? And distributing. What do you think we're going to just stop again after a rewind like that? No, this is actually because it's not a box, it's a range. It's going to be easier to move through. And if you've gained the momentum of breaking over 188, right? You've pushed out all of this, and now that volume that you're pulling out of this is pushing out all of this. And it's oftentimes when you have that little bit of structure. This actually reminds me of a trade that we took a while ago. And it is a picture, I mean, literally a picture perfect setup. Bring you Nike. And this is probably a great place to explain a few things to you guys. Right? Floor here, very clear top. Check this out, right? So for since January, basically the beginning of July, excuse me, all the way until August, right? We sit in this range. So just by the nature of the game, if we break and get a candle close outside of that with little to no resistance above us, that's great, right? So we would, even if this box didn't exist, we would still expect price to move. But and why is that? Because we're taking all of this volume here and distributing it up. But this acts like that gas pack, right? This is where that volume comes from. You're not only pushing out the buyers or the sellers that are in front of you, you're pushing out that box that you're punching through above you and adding that to the mix. And look at how it runs. That's a lot of empty space. Lot. It actually stops dead slap center at the 50% mark between the two of it and then dies off. It runs out of volume and it comes back. Why? You didn't build anything. You didn't build anything. But then eventually you go up. And again, to my point, I think it's always great for you guys to see this. Point A, point B. You really do fill up empty space. And then shit just gets weird. And I do this. This is why I move on. I trade a stock, I move on. You look at what's been happening since I left Celsius. And I mean, not to say there hasn't been some decent price action. There has. But I took Celsius here. I took it to here. And this, untradeable. Untradeable grinding down, and then finally you get something, right? A lower time frame break. Yeah. Yes. On Nike, yeah. But a lot of the times when Nike or a stock is sitting like this, right? Again, I have and this is something I want you guys to get in the back of your mind. When you have a wall, right, or you have the top of your box, that is where you should see the same thing you saw before. Sellers, like buyers, have a job that they're looking to accomplish. So if they're not doing their job, what are they doing? They're losing. Does this look like sellers winning to you guys? They don't have a hard job, by the way. It's not like they have an incredible amount of volume or anything sitting above them, but what are the sellers unable to do when price even gets close or around that range? It doesn't really do anything. It just builds. That shows you that sellers are not doing their job, and that's when we take advantage. Can't remember exactly what sent this one flying. I do believe there was definitely news. We all traded this. I think Jorge, you were in this, or a couple of you guys were in this one with me. We've traded Nike actually almost like 2 times a year, and then we're done with it. I haven't traded at all this year. Yeah, Maduro did have. Oh, did you delete that? That was cool. Kim K, she saved Nike. Yeah, that's what did it. Okay, so let's get back to what we were saying. All right, and again, just looking to identify floors. And listen, there are going to be stocks that I just don't trade them. That's my easy answer. There are too many stocks for me to get caught up on some shit that doesn't make sense. So if my boxes or setup is not clear, and Microsoft always comes to mind because Microsoft, right, is a pain in the ass. However, Microsoft on a lower time frame did what it was supposed to do, but it's a pain in the ass. It, even if it has, structure, the way that it trade, and I know there's some of you guys who actually really, really like Microsoft, but there's our floors, by the way, candle close, candle close, candle close, candle close. So if it doesn't look like that and it looks something like this, right? Maybe we don't, right? This doesn't offer clear structure. That's not the price action that we typically want to be trading. This is. So maybe now, again, I get it in my feelings about stocks just like everybody else. So, um, is the first bounce off the box considered a tap? Is the first bounce off of the box like off of a retest? So like if this was a box, you come back here. That or what are you talking about? Yeah. So just to give you guys an example, because I keep seeing you guys ask first green candle to my left, right? This isn't necessarily the cleanest empty space. That's my first green candle to my left. And I literally mean when I say first green candle to my left, I really mean it because that is most of the time always going to be my target. Um, that's why Amazon, right? We had two targets on Amazon. Amazon here, which that's what you already tested. So we had a good chance of breaking that. And then my God, here. So and this is obviously a much wider range. But if I'm looking to take and encapsulate all of this empty space, right? Technically speaking, here, right? That's the whole play. Let's look at another one here. Actually, nah, we'll leave that one alone. Let's do Netflix. Okay, so Netflix, first green candles to my left. Here. Simple. It is very, very simple, but that is just representing a floor. If you see green candles, you got a floor. And if you see one green candle, then you have a lower time frame floor, but it's still a floor and it's still a target. Yeah, on Amazon. On Amazon, technically speaking, this is actually the end of that empty space. However, due to the fact that you flush through these floors, they can be utilized, right? When you do not have any price action in here, and this is such a big area. I mean, when you start getting into massive areas of empty space, like Nike, Nike was treated the same exact way, right? When it had all of this empty space, there was hardly anything to grab hold of, right? At all. So we had to split that empty space up in half to choose one of those first targets. But in actuality, it was this first green candle to your left that you tap. That's a long ride, though. Can you please explain why sometimes I trade Meta? Like, what do you see on Meta that catches your attention at the moment? Yeah, we're getting ahead of ourselves, though. Why do I like to trade Meta? I typically start selling before it gets to my target, like just before it gets to my target. Now, why do I like Meta? Because of things like this. The way that when it runs, it goes on 4 to 5 day runs, give or take. I one of the things that's plagued me with this is and Meta is really solid about its boxes, but it will stay inside of its box for longer than normal. I've actually watched Meta consolidate and in the most recent price action, it's done pretty good, but I've seen Meta just go past those waves. So it is a little weird. It is a little weird. So, all right, we're going to keep going real quick before I leave this example. First green candle to my left here. That's a better example because it's literally the first green candle to my left. Now I zoom down and what is it? A box, right? See it starting to come clear and clear. There it is. That's the first target. Period. End of story. All right. Now we're going to get back into that. Okay. So let's first, we're literally just trying to make sure that we know what floors are. All right. Now, 4 hour time frame, right? Defenders of price. And in this example, again, uh, candle closes in boxes can signal that continue or can signal continuation in that direction. So naturally, buyers, even after lower time frame punch down, will want to secure price on top of seller control, right? So by this example over here, looking to my left, this box right here, buyers are actually going to end up trying to pull. When you do bounce, you're looking to recover something, right? So candle pulls itself up and closes back on top. Now, of course, you get the candle close on the floor, candle close on cost basis, break out, you retest, and then continue moving to the upside. So buyers act as defenders of the boxes that are underneath you, and how they respond is where we start to really dig into what happens from there. And we've done this on lower time frames continuously, where you'll see price fall rapidly or fall quickly and hit a box or even dive into a box, and that bounce and where that candle closes gauges whether or not you see continuation down, right? Because if you cannot pass the baton all the way, even if price liquidates the whole thing and hits something else underneath it, if you're able to pull or bounce yourself back up, you're defending price from closing under seller control. Oh, damn. All right. Once a floor is built, it is seller's job to keep price from closing there. So using a floor as a stop loss is essentially using buyer's control, literally using the floor. And I've gone over this before. There's multiple areas, right? But if I can set a stop loss on structure, if I can set a stop loss on an acceptance of price, this, right, with longer expiration contracts would be a place to do that. Because when the floor is secured, it's only cost basis that stands in your way. And because buyers are going to be defending that price from falling, you have buyers on your side or volume on your side. Once a floor is built, it's seller's job to keep that price from closing there. So using a floor as a stop loss is essentially using buyer's control. In theory, this is one of the best places to buy, right? Because it's where you can set a stop loss. Now, the top is still great, right? And if structure allows it, even over the top of these red candles right here, those areas can be utilized as stop losses. Once a floor is recovered, cost basis at the 50% marks is your next resistance, right? Once that is broken, new high. Once a floor is recovered, cost basis at the 50% is your next resistance. Once that is broken, that's where we get the punchback from. Remember, in this example, you can see the floor is held 5 times on a box for the first time. This is an example of strength. So reclaiming a strong floor with a higher time frame analysis in mind creates a good opportunity to get in before the punchback. If the box is clear, the higher the time frame, the stronger the level, right? So if this is an hourly, 4 hour setup, perfect. The stronger the setup, the stronger this or the higher the time frame, the better. All right. All right, before we move on, and go back up here. And we're gonna work on targets. So don't I know some of you guys were getting frustrated there, but let me see here. Affirm. Okay, so on the 24-hour, this would definitely be counted as a range, right? On the 4-hour, it definitely looks like it could be a box, right? Floor, green candle. Typically, that's how you're going to spot these boxes, is the green candle that's at the bottom. If you get a second point of contact, you know it's the floor. You can also see what happens just here in this example when price opens underneath it. It falls, right? Builds itself a new box, which is why taking bounces on higher time frames, you got to be sure that it reclaims something, but you break through that empty space, and now you have reclaimed that floor. All right. And again, where is my first target? My first green candle to my left, which is also the bottom of my box, or bottom of my 1, 2, 1, 2. That's a box. That's a box. So is that clear? I need a box versus range quiz. All right. Is that a box or is that a range? One, two, three. Candle close. Candle close. Wick. Oh, kind of seems like a box to me. What about this? What about that? That's range. That's correct. Yes. Range. What about this? What about that tiny little bastard? Speed test. Come on. Where we go? Box. Right. Box. You see cost basis, refusing price, punch through, empty space, box. It's all right. You're going to get better at it. Oh, this is going to be a tricky one. What about this? Is that a box or is that a range? Or can I tell? Trick question. Lower time frame? Okay, let's see. Yep, there's our answer. Top, red candle. Bottom, points of contact. Cost basis. Cost basis. Oui. It's a box. Very good. See that? We don't have to stay in a state of confusion on a higher time frame when we can zoom out and make it make sense, or zoom in and make it make sense. All right, let's see. What else can I trick you guys with? Let's see here. What else can we look at? That ought to be fun. Some of you guys might know this one. Ooh, crazy. Okay, we're gonna go back here. I think everybody should get this one. What's that? Potter, sometimes your wicks look invisible. Hey, dude, I don't go commenting on the visibility of your wicks. Get this guy out of here. That's right. That's a big ass box. Now, what is it though? Hold on. Is it probably a weekly? Where the hell did we go? Hold on. I gotta circle that. I get lost. There it is. So, did you see how it was a little bit irregular? Watch this. Clean. Clean. All right, now look. Watch what I'm going to do. So I have it here. But when I bring it here, right, I get more candle closes. I'm always going for more. There it is, right? 2 points of contact or 3 points of contact. I'm going to go with the third. Okay, so that's a weekly box that I can see on the 24-hour, right? All right, get your fingers ready. What's that? Box, 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 box. That's a box. Okay. What about this? What's that? There you go. All right, you're getting it. You're getting it. Let's keep going. I'm gonna make some boxers and rangers out of you. What's that? In the worst way. It's got to be a box. I'll just give that one to you guys because that's kind of trash. Now, this is an example of something that I'd rather gouge my eyes out with a spoon than trade anything that looks like this. Why? Because I can't see. I can't. Now, can I see that there are ranges? Could I dive down and find them? You're damn right I could. But what does it lead to? Mm, not the cleanest, right? Bunch of wicks off of a bunch of. I don't want that. The cleaner, the better. So this would be kind of an example of something that, as as much as much as it's true, it's not something I'm going to trade. But goes to show you that again, points of contact, right? That's what makes the structure. You actually have one over here too. A little punch back right there. Pow. All right. You said apple? Sure. Right? If the system works, it should work everywhere, right? So let's test it. You should get this one. All right. Box of range. We're gonna keep going. I want everybody to make sure. Box. There we go. What about this? Box of range. Boxerino, that's right. It's got all the makings of greatness. There we go. Okay. Now what about now? Are we building a box? And what does that mean, by the way? What are we going to see tomorrow when we come back to class? What are we going to be talking about? More than likely Apple doing what? Pain? I hope not. Apple's probably going to move. And where, right? Where would it have the easiest time moving, new people? Up or down? Why would it go? Why down? Why down, Sick Rivers? The Sick Rivers could have a point. I just want to know why. Why do you think it could go down? It does have empty space, doesn't it? It does, right? So you're saying, let's see, rejecting cost basis. Well, inside of a box, you can reject cost basis, right? You can, and you can still go and bounce on the floor. How would we find out, or how would we be able to dig into this box and pause, and see exactly what, where, or possibly get a greater detail? Lower time frames. That's right. So we've concluded it's a box, but let's explore what's in the box, because we can do this, right? Ooh, this is going to be delicious. All right, now the trained eye is going to see this. What's that? What's this? Talk to me. What do you guys see here? Probably a box. Now on this time frame, right? You might be jumping the gun calling it a box, but I see a whole lot of refusals. You know what? If you call it range, though, you can't really call it a box yet, can you? Bam. Now I'm going to leave it right there because it looks like you break down and try to climb back up and fail. So I'm going to leave it off of that green candle that explodes price up, right? Now, 2, 2, 1. Ooh, that's a range. Now, does it have all the same working components? But when you break cost basis, you only get resistance. So what would you guys tell me about this chart, right? Who seems like they're putting in the most effort right now? Who's putting in the most effort? Sellers. Why do I include the wicks and sometimes not? In this case, that wick is not touching anything. It's not, it's the candle closes. That when there's more candle closes and only one wick out, that's it. I couldn't care less about that wick. The only way that I would care is if I know what it's wicking off of and if that's important. So sellers seem like they're putting in the most effort, right? That's correct. Yes, sellers are putting in the most effort here. Now, how can we get into greater detail? Do it again, right? 15-minute. What's this? What's that right there, guys? It's empty. It is relatively empty. That's right. And price sure seems like it doesn't want to go there. I mean, it squirms. It squirms, and when it loses it, it falls. When it loses it, it falls. When it loses it, damn, it falls. So, already on this 15-minute time frame, we could at least know at this point where a 4-hour box would head to its floor, right? Would that be enough? No, it would not be enough, because then you would be moving to that green candle right here. You've already done it once. You could do it again, but listen, that is your first target. If a box breaking gives you whatever the first target is in front of you, that would be it. This box is not pulling all of its volume off of that floor exactly. Now, under that floor, knock yourself out. But hold on. Let me get your minds thinking here. What do you think happens, right? And I want only new people to answer this. What do you think happens when you get a green candle close anywhere above that line? So imagine, right? All this effort and you don't get anything, right? Buyers win. And what do they have as a reward? That's sweet, because your overhead resistance in the box is the only thing separating you from empty space. So we would lean maybe obviously to the upside, and the downside would be a little bit more tricky, right? With its floor down here. So this box's target under the floor, under the sea, would be 259.28. Yeah, you would. So there would be, again, we just did all of that work, right? And the safe trader, yes, could say, I'm going to take this outside of the wicks. But sometimes you're just trying to be safe and you're not using your noggin, because you got to think. what have sellers been working so hard to do to keep you below that? So if you close in it, you could use this. You could use those 3 wicks. You could use, yes, this. But when you see that sellers are going to be displaced and you can use their average as your stop loss, that's money, baby. Well, everything right here, Empress is an if. But what we can say about this setup is it's going to move. Apple has spent its average time of consolidation. You might have one more day, but this is about an average time frame for, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 candles drop. 1, 2, 3. Shit, you only get 3 candles there. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 candles here drop. So we're on our 3rd candle. Tomorrow will be the 4th. So that's one that we can listen. By the end of this class, this will have moved. I'm almost certain of it. And knowing what we know now about the lower time frame, right? About where sellers control the price and what separates you from that, we can identify. We could right now, all of you guys could go and set alerts right here. Go down to the hourly, right? Set an alert right here and set alert right here. Done. Yeah. Well, again, yeah, if sellers exhaust that overhead, if they're pulling all these orders, right, off, you would expect them to get that break. The way that you would take this, by the way, because you have a resistance in front of you, if you were to take it, say, below 262, you would have 2 weeks of expiration to get it to that floor. 2 weeks, because you have a floor that's going to be hard to break, right? And even if you dipped down here too fast, it could bounce. And it's not until we know that the floors that are keeping us from empty space are lost that we get it. So when you're taking a trade right there and you have an idea that you want to take it to the floor because of all this overhead pressure, that's fine. But you have to pick the right expiration or you're, going to get torn up. So every single time that it bounces or finds a floor, you're going to lose half your average. So all right, see here. Yes. Oh, yes, of course. Listen, this empty space will fill this the same way that this did. That much I know, and I know now from this analysis that it's over 266.16. Candle close, same way that it was here. Yep, we'll split that in half. And if I'm not, yeah, god dang it. Look, your imbalance is already freaking marked out for you, and you have a small look. So this is I can already tell you without this play having even happened that price you'll see a big candle in this space and it will stop here and try and build. So if Apple goes down quick to 260 where it bounces, do you exit if you were bearish? You said if it goes down quickly, if it fell really quickly in the morning, I would be very I wouldn't exit. So I don't exit unless I see the reversal happening, right? If that falls fast and wicks down and then pulls itself back up, yeah, I'm out of there. I'm out of there. I don't need to wait for that. I know what's about to happen. But if it just, sits there, at some point, if you have the right expiration, right, it might even retest. And depending on how you feel, right, it's up to you and your expiration on whether or not you can hold through that. I mean, that is why, I mean, a lot of people who are newer should only be using 2 to 3 weeks of expiration. But all right. Anyway, so I just want obviously wanted to make sure that people is anybody still feeling lost on the differences between a box and a range? Are the 24-hour bottoms and tops of candles more important than 4 2? Yes, the 24-hour candles are the most one of the most surefire targeting systems. I mean, yeah, yes. Higher time frame, higher precedence. Oh, okay, Junior. No, yeah, we'll do it one more time on a fresh couple stocks. What is anybody in here feeling like they're still unsure between a range and a box? Just say it. It's all good. Can I do it on IWM? Yeah, this should be pretty easy actually. So easy one, right? Box range, box range. Range has one on top and one on bottom. Yes, or two on top and one on bottom, or two on bottom and one on top. So that's a box. That is correct. All right, pick it up faster. Box range. Very good. Yes, box. Box range. Very good. Now you're getting it. Okay. Box or range? Box. No box. Yeah, you can put an R for range and B for box if you want. I don't care. That's fine. Right? Trick question. Box or range? Flop. Trick question. It's a weekly box or weekly range. Let me see. 24-hour. Yeah. That's a 24-hour box, folks. So if you said box, you would be correct. See it? Bam. Right here, you build, hold, resistance, hold, and pop. Retest, same thing. Why is it a box? One, two, one, two, three, box. Yeah, boxes can look like M's or W's. Yes. Oh, I've been standing this whole time. Yeah, more than 2 points of contact. Okay. Hmm. Box or range? Box. Now you might be looking and you're like, dude, but what about this? That is where you build. And this is a phenomenon that doesn't happen hardly ever at all. So I don't usually acknowledge it. And to whomever said there's a range with a small box in it, both, right? That box is true, right? That's a lower time frame box within it. That's small. Oh, damn. But as far as um, breaking or being at cost basis, the fact that you put candles around it means that you built a box around cost basis. I hate boxes and boxes too, dude. Well, sometimes if I'm punching through both of them, I love them. Okay. Give me another stock. I feel like we need one more. No, we're not doing Neo. That's going to be insane. Avo. Okay. Pretty simple. Pretty simple. Box or range? You think box? Is that what you think? See, I'm trying to push you out of your positions right now. See if who sticks to them. It's a box. Why? One, two, one, two. Also, it's not like I can't go and do this. Delicious. What's that? What is this? Does this just look like the cues falling into the cage? Same thing. Different time frame. Can you project your phone to your a TV, Maniac? Is there a rule where a box is a time frame in a time frame is true to another or all time frames? Yeah. And when we're looking for boxes, right? Um uh, and they do translate from the higher time frames down to the bottom. They're the easiest setups to trade. But and yes, so the answer is yes. You will see stocks that hold structure all the way through. You know, down to like the hourly and the 15 minutes. You'd be like, damn, you know that holds the same 24-hour level, and those are easiest to trade. But every 24-hour time frame that we identify as a good setup, including like cues right here, um, those are all done. We still look at top-down analysis to see, okay, well, if I'm looking for this 609 or 610 to break, right? What do I need to break to get there? That, right? If this promises me a new high, then what am I going for, right? Yeah. So like, I mean, again, coming when you're on the highest time frame, you're coming to simple conclusions. The simple conclusion is sellers control this, and if they break it, buyers break it, then they can keep moving up. Simple, right? That's it. But how do you enter off of that? You find it. And there's always going to be an answer. So, all right, let's go back. Oh, is it Kava? It was Kava. Yeah. Okay. All right. Let's wrap this up. Ranger box. One, two, two. I think it would be included in the box category for sure. I think, however, it would more than likely be a weekly box. And a weekly box breaking has a huge precedence if you are able to recover, right? The first green candle to your left, which is this one. So this is another example of the first green candle to your left. That is it, right? Now, if there was no first green candle to my left, listen, if there is no candle here and just red, what would I have to do? I would have to use something that we flushed through. So when you guys asked me earlier, why am I doing that to Nike, right? Why am I um using those candles over to my left, right? You know, this or you know, in this case over here, this floor. If there is nothing, right, or you have a tremendous amount of empty space to go through, I have to use what we flushed through. And when you flush through something, that means you didn't respond. So that means that there's still orders there. You use the third, yeah, there you go. So if there's nothing for me to grab onto, or it's really, really big empty space, I mean big, right? That's where, and I think it was on Amazon, right? Yeah, it's on Amazon, right? The green candle's all the way up to 236. How did it get there? By flushing through it. So there's still orders, yes. Or another word is there's still buyers there, yes. And because it's so much empty space, right? Not every time. In fact, a lot of the times, something like this, right? Where you're looking for a break out of this into this floor here, that wouldn't be something that you would just be looking at the first green candle to your left. Same thing here, actually. So this is, I always love doing this because it's like, damn, you can really tell that it is really the first green candle to your left. And that alone helped me define the system even better. So what would cause Amazon to be invalidated? Inability to grab onto the next floor. How would you lose if you're climbing up a rock wall, right? What would cause you to fall? Not being able to grab onto what's above you, or shit, whatever you have right now. So we could look at this and say, we want price to open above today's high, or we'll have to find something underneath us to bounce off of. Simple. I suspect 221.50 is going to be your next solid target, though. When you break through a box, does that box become irrelevant? No, it doesn't become irrelevant. So let's look at this, because this is technically, right, a punchback. Technically speaking, it is, because you do make a new low and then recover the floor, and then you punch through the 50% mark, and then you make a new high. So how is this box treated now that we've already used its volume? Well, it's used to retest off of. It's used to retest off of. And if these two levels fall, you then have a floor. But like a range, each one does not promise anything further than what's in front of it. So you could say, well, Amazon more than likely will go to its floor under here. Not more than likely. That's what market mechanics say, is that we would, take a trip down, maybe you have cost basis here to hopefully give you a higher high. But in reality, right, the box is treated, right, as an area that you do not want price to fall back under. So it is your support now. And this is this is something that everybody will teach you. Support becomes resistance, resistance becomes support, and that's very true. It is what it is. But also, one of the things that plagues people is why you'll pull back and then find a bounce level, and that's one of the things that I've figured out, because was one of those people who was like, "Yo, everybody told me I need to, that should bounce, or that's where the retests come off of," and that makes total sense. And in a trending market, that's exactly what happens. But you'll find stocks like Meta, or even chip stocks, when they're in their most volatile modes, will come back when you rip too hard. So I could actually help you with this right now. In fact, you're building, right? That's actually great. That's a great close. That's a great close. So you would have a 214.77. That is your floor. You do not want to lose it. You would have the imbalance of 213, which is also mirrored by the wicks. Perfect. Yeah, Q should be popping up right now. I have no, I mean, right now at this point, yeah. See, the only way that this messes, and I know some of you guys have longs with us. We want it here. Anything above here on that floor, and we can use the, because I want it. I want all of it. I've been waiting for so damn long to get it. So give me it. I want 615.75. That is the end. Well, not actually, technically, it's not even the end of the empty space. End of empty space is at cost basis, which is 616. I wouldn't leave a whole position there. But that's awesome. That's exactly how we want price to move here. That's awesome. I always get a little worried when we move so fast though in after hours, because if you just like in regular hours, if you tap something and you're unable to break it in after hours, you'll see that rejection overnight. And you could, and I'm not actually, if as long as we're opening above 612.77, we still have a good chance of using the volume underneath us. So said TQQ. Yeah, it's beautiful. Quick question. Yeah, quick question. Is this a box or is this a range? Ooh, what is that? Is that a box or is that a range? Serene. He said, did you mix the word? Oh no, you just actually put an S in there. I thought you were trying to blend it. He says range ox rocks. Hey Neil, I saw that. I saw that. Let's get him out of here. So is it a box or is it a range? Let's count. One, two, or one, two, one. Range. Range. Is this a box or is that a range? Junior, what are you on tonight? One, two, one, two. Box. Now, what you're also looking at is a visualization of what happens when you do build a box. Because normally you'd see something like this around cost basis, might pop up here, might move down there, right? And that's how you build a box. Ranges are typically how boxes start, right? Wide fluctuation up and down, and then you build inside of it. Yeah, okay, we did it. All the seniors in here, class clowns. But this is actually I'm ready to abuse this market. Calm down, calm down. But this is yes, good job. That is a range. This is a box. The beautiful thing about it is this little box's cost basis and this range's median or middle price are the same. And the end of the empty space is the same. Can I zoom in? There you go, old guy. That's one touch. That's right. I want you to here's what I want you to do. I want you to go tape your on your right and your left hand, tape your pinky and your ring fingers down. And when you look at a box, hold your finger up. Count to 3, baby. All right. Typing, trying to type, didn't see the range. This whole thing is a range. This is a box. Okay. Which means what happens? Where do we go if we punch through this box, folks? Where do you think you go? You punch through this box, you break over the high. Where are we going? Mars. Money. There you go. I'm going to go to the 5-minute. Look. Now hold on. Speed run. Box range. What is it? Last time. We're going to do one last speed run here. Box or range. Go. Faster. R or B. You don't have to type out range. You put orange. That's not a box. That is a range. Okay. Box or range. No, I'm doing this on purpose, mailman. Will I pull out to the floor so they can see big box? I want to do the small time frames because you're going to need to be able to do this fast. Right? The faster I walk you through this, the better. Range. That's correct. What about this? Good. 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 Fuck yes. What about that? There we go. There we go. Now hold on. What about this? The whole thing. Take a good look at it. Take a good look at it. Count with your eyes. Range box. You can't do that. Hold on. Right here, right? Right there, right? What's that? That's a box, baby. What's this? That's right. That's a box. That's the box that's guarding all of this consolidation. What happens when you punch through it? Pop, build, continuation. That's hot, baby. That's hot. Ooh, trick question. What is that? Dog water? Could be inaccurate. That's not a box. I see one off the top. The only other time you meet it is when you break it. So that's a rough one, right? Still holds itself together, right? Cost basis a little murky. That's hot dog water. Last couple times here. What's that? That's McDonald's. You're loving it. No, but seriously, what is that? I swear to God, if you call that a box, I'm gonna lose it. Reverse BBL. I see what you're saying. He said boobs. Men never change. All right. Implants. Look at this beautiful specimen. What's that? I want you guys to kind of like just take a look at this, right? Look at this hot dog water, right? And one of the things that I see already is like, dude, you got box after box after box after box. And then you kind of see this, right? Where you can already see the volatility spinning. Boy, does that right there, beautiful box. Beautiful. And it separates you from empty space, which you flush through. Take a look at the wick on that candle. Ugh. Boom. Right? What is it? What happens when you hit that? Who's supposed to do something? Do something, please. Hey, Neil. What's that? Let me go ahead and block this number, man. What's supposed to happen here? How could we tell that price is not going to be allowed to keep going? What do you do when you hit the floor? What are you supposed to do? Bounce. So when you hit resistance, what are you supposed to do? Lose something. You lose anything? Hell nah. Nothing. All right. And obviously, nothing. All right. Identification of the touches. Sounds like that might have to be homework tonight. Sounds like that's got to be the homework tonight. If you want to grab a study buddy in the chat, drop your best pickup line for a study buddy partner. You can do it by yourself. You don't have to. Um, but I think we'll probably have that as homework tonight. Am I from Tennessee? Absolutely not. Born in Los Angeles, baby. All right. Damn. All right. So let's get back to to sellers here. And we're gonna go ahead and probably have to close up shop here. I gotta get the kids to bed here in just a little bit. How long we've been going? And we gotta let our hour 45. All right. Is your dad a baker because you have nice buns? I don't know who my dad is, actually. Thank you. Sellers have an important job to do. They don't let price close above control. Identified by candle closes at the top. We just did some of that, right? Sellers sell every time that price falls into their control or runs up into their control. We can gauge whether or not they're doing their job when you hit resistance and you do not lose anything based on the reaction. Normally if you rush straight through that resistance without even building or even hesitating, you will come back down to retest. Will the slides be available to download? Of course. Yeah. Yeah, what the hell? Of course. Yo, Junior said, huh? You're gonna see how many garbage men. That's funny, dude. Identified by candle Alex. Identified by candle closes at the top. Sellers sell every time the price falls into their control. Wicks are not considered unless the wicks are off the exact same price. Does the first green candle apply to the moves to the downside? That's typically going to be the first red candle or the first top of your box. Yeah. Points of contact. Let the chart show you where resistance is. Use your higher and lower time frames. And listen, I know we just ran through that fast, but take your time. And one of the benefits of being inside of the Discord, and everybody in here should have 2 months in the Discord if you're in here and you're new, right? At least 2 months in the Discord. I had better see you guys in the study groups because that's where you're going to get better. Neil Jr., a lot of those dudes are in there. And fresh meat. Yeah, great, awesome. But comparing and making sure that you're seeing the right thing as you refine this process, but you will start seeing the correct boxes. I mean, there's some charts, if you catch Philo, who's in here right now, he's got incredible boxes. I love them. I spent hours, months in this fucking study room. You guys got to put in the work. Yeah. They will typically alert. I'll probably give these guys permission to post in the announcement page so that way more people know when they're doing it. But it's usually at night. What do you guys say about 8:30, 8 o'clock sometimes? Yeah, okay. And listen, I created it, I made it. I built it, and then I used it, and then I used it some more, and then I refined it, and then I built it up more, and I made it what it is, and then used it and been using it. These people are learning and building with it. So you're going to be around people who have got it, and you're going to be around people who are getting it, and it's going to help you kind of find your footing. All right. All right. Now you might be thinking, Potter, brother, that's got to be a range, right? Hold on. That's a green candle at the bottom. That is a green candle. It does bounce. It does bounce. I felt like somebody in here was already saying that in their mind. Was that you, Empress? I heard that message. All right. So candle closes at the top are where I want. And look, there's a wick there. And the reason I use this example is there's a wick and there's a body candle close, but it's at the top of that range where the candle closes green and red. That's where the control is. Downside target, candle color, top of the red candle. When you're falling, right? Typically, you're going to be aiming for things like this: floors, right? Or this, right? The top of structure. So is it going to be a red candle? More than likely, right? Because at the top where you retest is where you would want, or where you would see price fall back down to, right? You can actually see that level play across. Damn, look at that level. But yes, if you're breaking out and or you're taking a short position up here, you'd be aiming to the top of that structure. Is that clear, everybody? When you're shorting, you're aiming for structure. You're aiming for bounces, floors, tops. It could be something like this. That's what you're aiming for when you're taking things to the downside. Man, I tell you what, this market is. You guys might see some wild stuff by the end of this. I mean, I keep staring at the queues and I keep seeing this empty space. We just finally broke over this 610, and it's this that guards that, and that is nothing but cake right there. And that would be my first green candle to my left, and that would be the end of the empty space, and therefore a target of mine. Sure. Yeah. It's the same thing. Same thing. Right? Literally. So, floor. Now we know there's a tiny little box in there, so we can assume that if you break this, you get that. And that's where, yeah, the question arises, do you grab this, which is the only thing that stopped you? You hit it and then you gap down back under, which is, by the way, we're going to go through those rules. I have a whole cheat sheet for you guys to use for gapping up and gapping down. And when you get big price moves overnight, like when we gap down to that 4-hour floor on the cues, one of the rules is if you gap down to a floor, the first initial move will be up. If you gap down underneath something, the first initial move will be down. It's pretty damn good rule book. Actually, gapping up to resistance inside of a box is usually a great way to fall because you leave a gap behind, allowing you to push through structure. But all right, let's so I think we got that under control. And to fit, we'll go ahead and make this the last slide, and we'll continue with this tomorrow. Your homework for tonight is going to be box identification. That is going to be probably the number one thing I'm going to be working on. I think you guys got the candle closes outside of structure. That's great. I want you guys to find boxes. And Alex, or yeah, if you'll post that in the homework, I want 24-hour, 4-hour boxes, two apiece. Bring me two kick-ass charts. All right, take your time. You have all day tomorrow. Scan. Um, one of the I'll give you a little cheat sheet. Go look at the earnings schedule for the next 2 weeks and go look through those. Because listen, you're going to go through those, and some of those are going to have empty space and consolidation, and you're going to get to see whether you're right or wrong in one day. That's actually how I found so many of the stocks that I trade today. Is I would every earnings session, a season, I would go through and I would chart every single. And then when I tell you guys that repetition is king, I mean, straight up. I mean, you got to for 3, 4 years before, I really was public. It's like I was charting earnings every single season, and I was finding stocks I had never even heard about. I was finding stocks that people were hearing about. It's really, really, really useful. Because it also, again, when you're going into earnings, a lot of the times you're building for that move, just like you would on any other chart. But the only difference is like the trade that we took on, was it? Yeah, Kava, which was, oh man, I like a good earnings empty space trade, but this one was about as simple as it gets. And then just literally 1, 2, 3 over the top. And so you were able to, again, there's plenty of boxes on something like this, but when you go into earnings season, a lot of the times you'll be built up for a move that is to come on earnings, and that'll kind of help as well. So no, 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 no. I want the same chart on the 24-hour and 4. So two charts with the 24-hour and 4-hour time frames. 24-hour to identify the range, 4-hour to keep it clean. Just in, you could same ticker. You could pick whatever ticker you like. My best earnings play was where one contract, $36 turned to 2,300. God, I can't remember my best. I've had I shorted Meta before it was Meta, and I believe I had $18 contracts that sold for 1,800 the following day. And it was like I think it was down here actually. I think it was that candle. No, it wasn't. It was this one. I remember specifically because you punched. I did not. I was like, I don't know if we can actually do this, but you did. You popped up. I think you retested center mass, the old box. Yeah, and then you ended up punching through. So that one ended up being ridiculous. So I mean, listen, if you're, and we'll talk about earnings as well. And I skipped a slide on that one to save it for a later date. I do take earnings. That doesn't mean that you do. And that also doesn't mean that when you're new, you're going to be tempted by the fact that, yes, there are. But listen, if you take them with me, like, or with some of the guys who have experience, and you are okay with that risk. And again, just like any other play, we're picking low priced, out of the money, target based contracts to keep our risk low. But earnings has to be my setup. And I get a lot of people who ask me about earnings trade, and like, I don't care if it, there might be a variable where it usually does run or something like that, but or it only moves on earnings that might break that. But every single time, every W that I have ever gotten off of earnings, big ones, even that Meta one, was off of uh something that I could see happening. Period. It was just the same thing that I would take on a normal basis. Again, going back to a couple of earnings trades that we took, this is a trade that I would take. And I obviously did take going into earnings. You have the points of contact, right? You have the consolidation underneath you, which you bounce off of and hold. You go into earnings right up against cost basis, and there's nothing but empty space up above you. So while these opportunities are clear and oftentimes cost effective, if you're gonna take them, I'm gonna be real with you. You cannot take everyone that you see, and there's going to be a feeling inside of you when you get in front of a chart that has earnings, or like, and people do it with Nvidia. Like I told people on the videos, like I couldn't, maybe, yeah, no crying in the casino, but also don't go into the casino that has, if there's one machine that's rigged to win, like you would stick to that one, and that's what I do. I stick to the ones that are clear. And I get a lot of people who, like, on NVIDIA, they were like dead set on taking that trade. The contracts are through the roof expensive. There's no setup on there. There's no empty space. And the only thing that could happen is based off of that earnings reaction, which it did the following day. But the cost of the contracts was virtually destroyed. So, all right. Now let's go ahead and finish this slide and get you guys to homework. I think we did this one. There we go. All right. So sellers below, right? Sellers will sell when price comes within their control, right? Somewhere that they pushed price down. When retesting, buyers are stepping up before price can control in the structure below, right? So when retesting, buyers are stepping up, like in here, before that control can be established. So buyers, and listen, this is what is so beneficial about this system is you can see the boxes down below, and while it's falling, if it's falling fast, you can almost bet 9 times out of 10 that it cannot sustain that sort of price action moving down. And a lot of the guys in here that trade futures, or we've traded futures together, or you guys have traded the 1 minute and the 5 minute with me, we've done this together on live where we let price is falling quickly. That's exactly what we want. And you guys, what I've done, thankfully, with a lot of people is kind of flip those red candles that usually scare people uh, away or out of their trades into that's exactly what we want to see. So cost basis is the only place that buyers can step up once that price is lost. So if we have, again, and this is just a range that sellers control, but if we have a cost basis mark and you fall into the top of a box, right, it would be that 50% mark. That would be the only place that you could really retest and continue moving upwards without risking continuation of the downside. Sell walls tend to hold and can be exacerbated by a stop loss being at the wall, or sell wall, excuse me. Um, what is it? Lily? Yeah, I know one of who got out of that trade. Yeah, you sold it yesterday, dude. I know, I felt it. I felt it when you got out of that trade. It made me sad. Yeah, at this point, dude, I'd just be hanging. I mean, it's not a Potter box. I mean, maybe on the weekly. Yeah, on the weekly it is. On the weekly it says death. It's whew, boy, that shit looks kind of. I'm gonna take it. I'm gonna take it tomorrow. Actually, I'm gonna take this trade tomorrow. I'm probably gonna take the 955 strike, 955 or 930 strike, and I'm gonna go for at least 3 weeks out. How does it fall? It usually falls pretty heavy, pretty fast. And let's see, I'll make this trade plan before we leave. So I decided on the weekly that I like it short. Now I'm going to go to the 24-hour. I don't really see anything other than a green bottom or the first green candle to my left as a target underneath. So that would be one of the only areas. And that would add a week of resistance or a week of expiration to the trade that I'm looking to take. I do see a big chunky boy of volume up above me, not to be considered a box, but definitely a big ass range. However, on the 4-hour, it does appear that tap, 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 tap is our most recent price action floor. So I could say simply, no, right? No. I also know that there's empty space up above. So if price on Lily is unable, is everybody tracking me right now? Am I losing anybody? Talk to me. Good? All right. Just want to make sure that I'm not losing anybody. Okay. So now we got a little bit of we got some box action in here. I'll clean that up. Where's that wick coming off of? Coming off of whatever that is. That's a range, right? But it's probably a lower time frame. Nope, still a range. And not to mention pre-market range. So that I really even wouldn't I would actually only consider this to be an area that you would need to break. So I think for the trade, for me to take this trade, because I do see areas that would concern me to the upside, or I would not want to reverse upon. So what you'll see, like I already got the idea of where I want to take it to the downside. That's simple, right? I got that. But now I need to find out where this trade can go against me. Or maybe instead of getting into the trade, I can actually prevent myself from taking a bad setup and wait until something up above is filled. Yep, what's below and what's above. And so every trade that I take, I am creating a plan, or I'm finding the upside trade and the downside trade because I want to know where the triggers are for both. So getting rid of this, I could say simply, if that is crossed, because we haven't lost our support, if that is crossed, then I'm not taking it short. I'm not taking it short. And I'll add an alert right there so that if that breaks, then whatever happens up here is not necessarily my concern. You know, I'm not somebody who wants to trade Lily on a lower time frame with $1,000 contracts up to 1024. That's not my cup of tea. However, all this volume accumulating at the floor, if it amounts to nothing, or perhaps we do rip, right? Again, I don't know the answer to this, but I am making a plan so I know what to do when this arises. So if price does bounce, 1, 2, 1, 2, break is coming, right? If it does bounce and it rips ass and it goes straight up into that floor, right? Then I can start looking at what it needs to lose beyond that in order to go back down. And I can leave it alone and wait for that damn alert to go off because inevitably, right, it will. And if I have no interest to the upside, then it's not my concern what happens above. It's only my concern of what happens below. And preferably, I'm gonna be honest with you, I would rather take it after a pop, fill the gap, and then start losing levels because one of my favorite things to do is start a short position when you dive into the top of a box or of structure. It often typically one of the things that tips me off to continuation of the downside is when price pops out and then fades down. Oftentimes that'll lead to your punch down. So not a bad setup. Not a bad candle close. Now I have a lower time frame setup as far as where or what needs to be lost. I know where I want to take it. And obviously just digging into the contracts would be the only step there. So yeah, lots of taps. But this is, again, going over the average candle time or consolidate. This is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16 weeks of consolidation. 16 weeks of consolidation. And I mean, even in a trend, look at this. Look, follow me, right? Hold on. I'm not done yet. Look, hold on. Pretty simple concept here, right? Pretty simple. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, and you're off. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, and you're off. It's coming. It's coming. I used the tool you showed us, Potter, to look at Lily. Oh, hell yeah, brother. And the only other thing I see here, because I'm trying to spot any other context clues here, I see a higher low on this wick. Ooh. So something has to happen. something has to happen soon, right? For this weekly candle to either change, which is what, obviously it's not the end of the week, and I'm basing what I'm seeing off of a weekly candle, which has yet to close. So like the lower time frame, I can't go off of that until the candle closes. So can I do AVGO? Sure. Box or range? Box or range on the weekly. There you go. Okay, you got it. Now what is it? A blender. Unrecognizable. Oh my god, dude. My brand. Hold on. Does it get juicy? You know what? You know what? Bump all that. That. Damn. Dude, I bet Chad's palpitating right now. Bet his head's shinier than a crystal ball. Yeah. 3:45:20. 24-hour time frame close. 4-hour time frame. Widen the range. Chad likes AVGO. He's addicted to it, dude. He's addicted to it. It has a great setup. Period, end of story. I see, this is where it's exciting, but I don't get trapped in it, right? I'll literally go and do this. I'll start finding levels that need to break like that, right? It's not a box, but it is a level. Points of contact, right? Tipping me off, points of contact. So when that gets broken, right? Okay, attention. That right there, which is more than likely a box, if that gets broken, right? Earnings. Oh, you just had earnings. Yeah, keep your eyes peeled on that one. That's a really interesting stock. Yeah, I'm gonna set my alert on that one. And actually I'll set another one right here, halfway through that box. Anybody else have any requests? We'll go ahead and finish this up. Again, tonight's homework, I want you guys to just find me boxes 24-hour and let me know what you're trying to do to this, right? What's the idea? What's the idea? What the hell? Hey. Yeah. It's evil. It's going to hell, dude. My price target on this one is somewhere around here. Here. That's my price target on that one. That's what you call a Netanyahu fake out right there. I can't believe that's actually a ticker. APP. Ooh, trick question. Trick question. Is this a box or is that a box? Is that a box or a range? This is gonna trick some of you guys. Box or range? What about that? Does that have all the things that a box needs to have? That's right. This has a fall, a pop, and then a drop. So 2 off the bottom, right? But it builds afterwards into that box. All right, let's investigate a little more. Hmm. Would you look at that? 1, 2, 3, 1, 2. Damn. Not bad. That's right. That would be a box. That would be a box. So what are you looking to do here on APP? I imagine. So first green candle to my left is here and here. What is the green candle to my left also the end of? What is it? Empty, right? That's right. That floor is also 50% of that whole candle. So it also is the imbalance, which the imbalance, you're going to hear me say that. It doesn't, listen, you can call it the 50% mark because that's all it is. If there's empty space and there's a big dump down or big rip up, the 50% mark of that will be the imbalance. Period. Can I look back at PDD? Oh, this is a nightmare for me to, I'm gonna be honest with you. Chinese stocks are like the plight of my existence. Yeah, so even I struggle sometimes to identify solid structure. In fact, I have a little cheat code that I use sometimes in order to find it or encapsulate it, right? And I'll do that as a way to find those boxes, and then I'll switch my chart back up. Again, remember, guys, there's no fucking rules. There's no rules. There's just the best way to figure out how to make money. And that's one of the things that I did when I swore. I mean, I even swore off reading books from people. Um, I mean, there's only the rules that you make. Like, I think that's actually one of the things that led me to make a strategy in the first place. Is like you realize that everybody's just looking at the market and then creating rules based on their own understanding. There's professionals who will tell me that what I do is doesn't make or is too risky, right? Or like uh you might have somebody even look at the percentage of the trade, right? Some people write books saying that when you hit 20%, that's where you trend, right? There's people who say, based on their experience, that you never let something that you've traded intraday turn into a swing trade. I question those things because I want to know if that's just your inability to be able to do it or you didn't solve it. So you made a rule around it. Probably in the same way that, there's areas where, I don't have a box or, it's not clear to me and somebody else might look at it and be like, "What are you talking about?" But, um, yeah, I mean, I did that. I spent about a year and a half, 2 years after my major crash out on basically anybody who had a stock group or anything like that. And I just basically said, "I'm not listening to anybody until I see it as proof. I'll hear you, but I need to see it, right? Okay, well, you're telling me that day trades or my intraday trade should never ever turn into a swing trade. Well, you want to tell me why 80 to 90% of market movement is overnight, or when a break of structure occurs at the end of the day and price is accepted into an area with no resistance, that I don't need to take that? That's just you not knowing what I do. And that even in itself, I felt cocky saying it. I don't want to be a cocky individual. It's not my thing. But I had to be like, yeah, this is a real thing. This just isn't something that somebody else has figured out. And that's why I tell people, like there are some, yeah, if you need to use a line chart in order to find a box, do it. It still works. That was just the line chart, by the way, and I found it. So, anyway, that's the only box that I have direct, like in the most recent price action is in here. It's horrendous, but it is a box. Um, and just nothing. So this is, again, and I'm not shy about telling people that I have no idea. When maybe there are some times where it is very clear, like something like this, folks. That, oh man, and I believe, if I'm not mistaken, this is back last year. This might be a trade that we took, because we did take PDD last year. That right there is clear. This right here is not, right? Maybe over top, right? You could aim for like that top candle right here at 112.50. But the harder it is, the less I'm attracted to putting in effort, because that just means more problem solving, more stress. And if I can simplify everything and focus on those, I do. Some people are a little bit more headstrong than I am, but all right. All right, guys. Um, Good class. If you again, we're going to continue doing this tomorrow. We got more slides to go through. We did not get through those, but I wanted to make sure that obviously I are the slides somewhere? Yeah, they are. I believe they're in the last class, but if not, we'll get them on there. Um but yeah, Alex, you can go ahead and stop recording if you want. I've got my